in, in the marketplace of ideas, right? So I think if you want to just have a social media network for beautiful people, right, or people who are, guys who are over 6'2" and blonde hair and blue eyes, right, I can't get on. You should feel free to, raise money for that enterprise, launch it, and I'll be, I'll laugh when it fails, right? So like now under some construal, that kind of thing, is or should be illegal, if you're just a normal person on the left, but. I think at this moment in history it shouldn't be. But in any case, when I look at Twitter, I see a company that has terms of service, which people like Alex Jones and Trump clearly violated. I mean, whether they in fact violated this terms of service as written, I think they violated any coherent terms of service that Twitter should have had, right? Like you shouldn't knowingly be able to turn your mob on a private citizen and ruin their lives through doxing, right? Which is what Jones and Trump were doing. It just again and again and again to people. Every time.
Fair. Okay.
Jones was doing it with the Sandy Hook parents, right? You literally have.
But Sam, you're conflating two very different people. I mean, Alex Jones does not belong in this conversation. Yeah. I'm not interested in Alex Jones.
Why not? What, if it's the principle of the matter? These guys love fucking having no nuanced conversations when it comes to principles. But then all of a sudden, when you fucking lump in Alex Jones to the conversation, it's like, no. Why? Who gets to decide that Alex Jones is not allowed on the platform, but Donald Trump is allowed on the platform? Why is it? You want to know why? Because everyone is not fucking... Every single person is the same. Every single person. At least I admit it. A lot of these people can't. They have to act like they have some level of like, principled stance on this matter. They're like free speech absolutists. Alex Jones violates the terms of service. He's gone. Why? Because, he's not defensible. Trigonometry can't defend Alex Jones, but trigonometry can defend Trump because Trump is more normalized. Trump is the president. You can defend Donald Trump, but you can't defend Alex Jones. So he's like, I have to make it seem like there is some weird fucking principle that makes it so that Alex Jones can be banned, but Donald Trump can't. Yeah, the only principle is whether it's appropriate or not, that you can defend them.
But I would dispute that. I think Trump is essentially, we got Alex Jones as president of the United States. I don't think they're very different people. I think that it's the same phenomenon in my world. Because just the level of misinformation, disinformation, lying, the charlatanism, the conscious fraudulence of everything at scale, and the targeting of individuals with known consequences, right? Like Trump, every time Trump singles out a specific citizen and says, look at this jackass who's trying to, whatever the claim would be, that is a human sacrifice. We know that person's life is just never the same again because he's turned tens of millions of morons on that person and, vicious morons on that. I mean, that's the core of the Trump phenomenon is now and has been for many years. I mean, really,
that dude suddenly grew a brain. What the fuck? No, dude. Sam Harris always did this shit. Once the Obama administration was out and Trump moved beyond the Muslim ban, because like Trump Muslim ban, Sam Harris was like, okay, shit's good, actually. Trump understands the fear or the threat that the Islamic world poses to America. Sam Harris also has literally had and defended Douglas Murray, or was it Charles Murray, the bell curve guy? Was it Charles Murray? Yeah, it is Charles Murray. Sam Harris has defended the basically the father of American neo-race realism, Charles Murray, the guy who wrote the guy who wrote the bell curve, that basically states that like black people are inherently inferior because look at the data, look at their IQ, across the board.
At the beginning, since he, certainly since he became the front runner and certainly since he became elected in 2016, it's a personality cult. I mean, it has all the dynamics of a personality cult. These are not reasoning. Yes, there are a few calculated people like Peter Thiel on the margins who have some story as to why they would back him, right? But the core of the cult, which is all, nested with QAnon and conspiracy thinking and the big lie, and, it's like Trump can do no wrong, right? He's, that is so, I mean, as a Venn diagram, it overlaps 80% with the Alex Jones phenomenon. So I see them as the same problem. I see these are, if they're not actually clinically, diagnosable as psychopaths, they're the next best thing. These are people who are so malignantly selfish and so careless with respect to the consequences of their actions in the lives of others that if you own a platform or you're
I love when people say Sam Harris didn't actually support the Muslim ban. When like the main reason why Sam Harris didn't support the Muslim ban is because it didn't feature fucking Saudi Arabia. Like the main reason why Sam Harris was critical of the Muslim ban was because it did not include, and I'm reading his words, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, or Lebanon, any of which has been a more fertile source of jihadist terrorism than several of the countries Trump named. Okay? Yes, he did say it's unethical with respect to the plight of refugees, but it's bound to be ineffective in stopping the spread of Islamism. Okay? However, most of what's being said in opposition to Trump's order is thoroughly contaminated by identity politics and liberal delusion. For those of you who say Sam Harris is like argument, Sam Harris's argument was against Muslim ban is silly as fuck. Okay. How are people fans of Hassan and defend dumbass Sam Harris? Because Sam Harris uses what I call clinical language. Okay. He uses neutral language. He uses neutral language that appeals to a lot of STEM lords on the internet who think that he is just speaking objective facts that are not perfectly blinded by his pre-established biases. Okay? That's it. So a lot of people who have never watched me in a veil of civility and rationality, exactly. And a lot of people who watch me and maybe watched him will listen to his propagandizing, okay, towards Muslims and probably agree with a lot of it. Because Sam Harris doesn't say Muslims are bad because they're goat fuckers and should not want to fucking, should not be in America. He's too smart for that, okay? He doesn't like, he is Islamophobic, but you need to capture the Islamophobia and the motivation behind what Sam Harris is saying. Do you understand? Like, he will use he will turn Islam into a monolith, okay, a monolithic structure, and then point to Wahhabist extremism, fundamentalists within Islam, and make the false claim that all Islam is like this and it is completely devoid of the material conditions. Do you understand? He tries to, exactly, you called it right. He tries to intellectualize the racism, which is why he likes people like Douglas Murray, or rather, we'll have a conversation with the likes of Douglas Murray. Because Douglas Murray is like the intellectual racist's favorite author. He is the Karl Marx of racism, if you will, the modern day Karl Marx of racism. He gives you the underpinnings, the racism theory, the empirical evidence, which is not, of course, real empirical evidence, not true, but he gives you what seems like empirical evidence to basically theory craft your, or did I say fucking Douglas Murray again? God damn it. Douglas Murray is another anti-woke dickhead. Charles Murray. Charles Murray. Oh, fuck. Do you understand?
Overseeing a public company that owns a platform. Why should the government force you to keep these people on, right? Like, you should be free to say, sorry, you're not on my watch. Are you going to be having these consequences? And with Trump, it was after January 6th. It was just, I mean, that's when it happened. I thought it happened a year too late. But I mean, January 6th finally convinced Dorsey he should kick Trump off. And that, I mean, if that's not going to convince you that, you know, we had at that point, we had a sitting president who for months and months and months, I mean, you know, at least 6 or 8 months, you know.
Yes, Gift Smooth is correct. He also uncritically accepts the authority of state violence, or rather the American state's violence. one of the most informative conversations that I have ever read that basically exposes Sam Harris's fundamentally flawed ideas about Islam and how to deal with the problem of Islam comes from the conversation that he had with Noam Chomsky, where Noam Chomsky basically fucking eviscerated his asshole, okay? Noam Chomsky basically turned his asshole into a Louis Vuitton purse, inside and out. He made Islamophobic Ben Stiller look like a little baby, okay?
Certainly months prior to the November election, would not commit to a peaceful transfer of power. And then he did, certainly something, whether it was everything in his power or just a lot, he managed to see that we did not have a peaceful transfer of power, right? And then, so what's the mob going to do on January 7th and 8th and 9th, if you just leave Trump on the platform? I just thought it was a very simple decision to kick him off, and it totally analogous to the Alex Jones decision. I mean, Alex Jones is just less consequential, but I mean, there are Sandy Hook parents who have had to move 10 times since their kids were murdered. That's all on Alex Jones, right? And it's all conscious. It's all he could see the consequences of his actions in real time. It's not like he woke up after 5 years and thought, "Oh my God, I can't believe that it was totally inadvertent. I released a podcast, and then it had this totally unforeseeable."
For the record, one could make the argument about Sam Harris and all of the maybe not directly targeted attacks, but the broader attacks as he laid gently upon the tent pole of Islamophobia and put his back directly into it and created an environment even among like liberal and centrist circles where he normalized Islamophobia and made the lives of Muslims worse overall as a consequence of the hostility within his rhetoric. So if he can understand that for Alex Jones, maybe he should be able to understand that for Islamophobia. Of course, he's never going to agree with that perspective because he thinks that's a morally righteous and a just cause.
Consequence.